My name's Sasha Pete, and I'm joined by a fantastic individual. This man is just turned 85 only a few days ago, and he was the 156th person to be capped as a Socceroo, all the way back on the 27th of November, 1956, where, funnily enough, we had our Olympic Games here in Melbourne. Ted Smith, to me, is a living legend, and I'm truly honoured to be joined with him today, from not only for the work that he has put into the game as a player and then as a coach, but more importantly, the work that he has done subsequently by keeping all the boys together who've worn this fantastic shirt in the Socceroo alumni. So welcome, sir, Mr. Ted Smith.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
Oh, it's an absolute honour. So, Teddy, you're looking fantastic. You just turned 85. What's the secret?
Well, I don't know what the secret, but I have a bit of a theory. Is I worked very hard in my teams physically, including weight training, which was coming into Australia then with the Harry Hopman, the captain of the Davis Cup team, and also trained with professional runners, as well as play basketball, cricket, everything going.
Yeah.
And I think that's a legacy or a help, because I can still play golf, not as well as I want to, but I can still get out there. It's a theory, not been proven at all.
Fantastic. So I just want to compliment you and how well you look. 85 years old. I hope I look as good as you when I'm 85. So please, so Ted, tell us how you fell in love with our great game.
Well, it really started with reading English football magazines when I was 11 or 12, and around that time, or for 2 years, my father was a timber cutter in the bush. I lived in the bush. I went to correspondence school for a good part of that time. I didn't have schoolmates to kick a footy with or play cricket or whatever. And when my grandmother died, we came down to Melbourne, and I went to Northcote High. And at morning break and lunchtime, his kids kicking a ball. So I don't have a kick at this ball. No pre-ideas of what may or may not happen. But the key was that they only had 11 players. And there was one team, a senior team, which meant playing, now they've got 2 sports days. They've got the junior sports days. I played footy, cricket, tennis, everything. And I had the senior sports day, which was playing soccer. And in those days, there were 4, including Northcote high schools playing soccer. That's all. And we played each other twice a year. We had a teacher, no manager, no coach, no, the introduction of the game. And there was, again, no future thoughts about whether I'd keep playing the game or what I would do. It was just an evolution in that there was Northcote High School Old Boys played also on the Saturday, and I played with them while I was still at school. I left school at 14, started work, and then the connection with Northcote dropped because it was run, the Old Boys, by the players. There was no officials, there was no structure. And I went to play with Preston Tech Old Boys. And I played there for 4 years when I was playing in the under-17s. And I played the game, which was always before the senior team in the second division. And I was told I had to play in the seniors, which was a surprise to me, because in our junior team there were several other players who always played in the state trials and played Victoria. I never played Victoria as a junior. So I was surprised to get this game in half a season. And somehow I fit it in, and I played another year when I was 17 for the Preston senior team. And by this time now, I'm working in an insurance office. And of course, everyone gave me heaps about playing the WOG game. Because at that time, it was very much a British game. Also very anti-football. Our football, very anti. And even at Preston, there was no real coaching at all. And so in the following year, when I'm 18, having played against Moreland, who were a very strong team, one of the oldest clubs in Victoria, and they were relegated after winning the Doherty Cup, which is quite a trick. I don't know how you do that. And anyway, a few of those older players gave me a bit of encouragement. So I just turned up at Moreland. And in those days, you played on amateur registration, which was only for 1 year. And so I turned up at Moreland, having had these plaudits and thinking this is going to be good. No one really wanted to know who's this bloke. So, okay, they allowed me to train, and then we played some practice games. And it was in the matches that I started to show something, and got great encouragement for a Socceroo, which is a term that came later, and I'll get to that. Reg Hardman very much encouraged me playing with Moreland in what was the State League First Division then.
Yes.
You know, as high as it was.
Top flight in the state. Yep.
Yes. And as part of that timing, there was a separate competition played on Sunday with the Labour Cup, which was national teams. Australia played Scotland, etc., etc. And at 16, I was asked to come and play because there weren't many Australians playing in Victoria at that time. And there I met two former Socceroos who were great mentors, Angus Drennan and Jackie Wilson. They were great mentors on me in those early years. And so I'm at Moreland in 1953. And at that time, the Federation brought out an English professional player who was an FA coach called Len Young. Len Young, as well as being the state coach, set up coaching courses and was the first coach to set up a facility for the Victorian Colts. A bit like the VIS, you left your club for 2 years and you played and got coaching. This is the first coaching I received.
Yep.
And it was a revolution, of course, and that we had some trials early on, and I played previously in under 14, 15 trials and never got anywhere. But this I was selected in the first Colts squad for 2 years. And we played in the 4th division against men in the first year, and came in halfway through the year actually. And the second year was in the 2nd division, and we did very well. And in that team were teammates of mine at Moreland, Don Hodgson, who went on to play for Australia, scored a fantastic goal against Football Club Austria.
Yep.
David Oxon, who played many times for Victoria, and Brian Roberts was looked upon as being a potential player and was on the bench against South Africa, as I was. And McCartney as well. And so I did my time and then went for another 2 years and they stopped it stupidly. I mean, we beat lessons of the past and don't learn from them. But to have out of that first squad, 5 players who played for Victoria, and I think all of the peak bodies, the cadetships and all this things for young players, understand, I think, that all of them won't get through. So you live with maybe 3 or 4 from any intake of these young players, but you still produce another 16 or 17 great local players.
Yes.
For the state or we now have A-League. But let's learn some of these lessons. And so because of the introducing night soccer in Victoria, I had to give up cricket. I was playing cricket in Victoria when we had all the Harvey brothers, Neil Harvey, Merv Harvey, and all the Ray Harvey.
Yep.
I had to give it up. But by now, what is really driving me is people trying to stop me playing this foreign game. Young mates, people at work, why are you playing this world game? And in reality, that's what got me that I was going to play this game. Now, coincidence or not, I have no idea. In my last year at school, when I was 13, we had to do a drawing in the art, which wasn't one of my great strengths. But what we had to do was draw your dream. From 13, having never seen a coach, played the game for about a year, I drew scoring for Australia playing soccer.
Wow.
And you tell me.
Wow.
How and why?
Yes.
No idea.
This is like Ted, this is the manifestation of the mind, right? So no different to a young boy today at 13 who wants to play for the country, right? It's exactly the same. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, and I never, whilst I was on this journey, really kept having this target in front of me. Not really. In a lot of ways, I was fortunate in certain breaks that I got. For instance, Moreland put me on. They had a very good team, older British players. They put me on the left wing to protect me, and I was quick. I have to say that. And so because I was playing in the old WM formation, I don't know if you're aware of it, I was out on the left wing. And so that's where I played with Moreland for 8 years. And the process for the Olympic team was that 2 years prior, it was very little focus on it. But in 54, I was somehow selected to go over to Adelaide, but play a game against for an Australian 11 against New Zealand.
Okay.
And in those days, the selection of the Australian team was very political. Depending on the state where you played, they would have Royal Victorians and all that sort of thing, which I'll touch on later. But anyway, they fly me to that. First time in a plane, 2 hours to go to Adelaide, staying in this posh hotel in the middle of Adelaide, not sure which knife or fork to use. And anyway, we have a training session. Tom Jack, who was at that stage captain of Australia and also captain of Hakoa, and was a little bit of a mentor. He always came to watch the Colts play. Anyway, here am I supposed to be playing with New Zealand. All of a sudden, they're putting the South Australian. Now, I probably shouldn't have been there anyway, because there's no changes to half time. But anyway, it was just part of the journey. Coming into 1955, they started to have some friendly games.
Mm-hmm.
They selected an Australian team, which changed from time to time too, and they played each state twice. I played for Victoria against them at outside left. The next time I got the flu and couldn't play. So a few weeks later, I'm selected to go to Sydney, and I played for New South Wales against the Australian team, and had an assist, I must say.
Okay.
Hit the ball down, Peter Stone put it in. Anyway, we go up to Newcastle on the Sunday to play, and the trip on the Hawkesbury up there is absolutely beautiful on the train. And I play against Australia, or play for Australia against Northern New South Wales. Mm-hmm. And a few weeks later, I again played for Australia against New South Wales. So this was the selection committee. There was a committee there. A coach hadn't been formed. Coaches for the Australian team were depending where you played. Melbourne, Sydney, or whatever. There wasn't a plan. There wasn't a training regime. No, that. But we put the shirt on and played. We didn't get paid for it. That was all right. And anyway, subsequently, I get a telegram from Jim Stewart, the chairman at Moreland, been selected in the Olympic squad. And Moreland had 3 former players in the Olympic squad. Frankie Lachlan was one of our great players, and Bob Williams. And you will attend the Olympic Village, I can't remember the date, but about 3 weeks before the opening ceremony, which was 22nd of November.
That was in Heidelberg, the Olympic Village in Heidelberg.
In Heidelberg,
yep.
Yes. We had we're in the village, obviously, but we had a part where we were all together. It was 2-story flats. There's quite a few photos of boys over there. And this squad of 20 had a player from every state.
Yep.
Okay. Tasmania, West Australia. And so we start now on a minimal preparation of 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Quite a few of them had done very little. I was fortunate that I was doing this for a year or 2 myself, with the weight training and the athletic training. And the trainer for the Olympic team was Bill Lyons, who ran these other things anyway. Yes. So I was still in fit mode.
Yeah, you were fit.
Still playing outside left, so I had an advantage.
Yep.
So here's the luck. We've gone to Moreland, outside left. When I was a junior, I was an inside forward. I was a worker. I run all day, you know. So the highlight of this is we're training twice a day, and we have some friendly matches. And so this is Len Young has been appointed the coach. And in fact, there had been a move for Joe to be the coach. Mm-hmm. But politically, Len Young, maybe because he's Victorian, I don't know.
Yes.
But they set up these friendly games. And we've been there a week. Blokes are not quite fit. Blokes are now feeling a bit sore. And who do we play first up? On a Friday night in the rain? Russia.
Okay.
That's pretty good, isn't it? And funnily enough, we get a free kick. Cliffy Sanders from Queensland takes it, slips through the goalkeeper. We're 1-up against Russia.
Well, there you go.
How about that?
Yes.
So, half time, we're 7-1 down.
Okay.
Changed the team entirely. We got beat 15-1.
Yeah.
Now, why would you set up that match as your first game of unfit?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
Anyway, we
yeah.
subsequently
Play
played.
a powerhouse of a team. Play it. First game, let's go play the world, arguably at that time, a powerhouse of a country, yeah.
Well, the keeper was acknowledged by most people as being the greatest ever, Lev Yashin.
Yeah, Lev Yashin. Yeah, they call him the Spider. He had great hands.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
There's not a lot of photos from 56, but there is one of him having to make a save actually like that.
Teddy, I still think Lev Yashin is the best keeper of all time, even today. If I had to select a keeper in, let's say a World 11, I just did my World 11 at work, and I still pick Lev Yashin in goals in front of some of the more newer players. For me, Lev, what he did at that time was probably a generation ahead of what he could do. He could probably play. He probably would have been good in the 70s, right? So, yeah, to me, great keeper.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely on that score.
Mm.
But as a side issue for this selection with it on the basis of state, unfortunately, because it was done by a selection committee,
Yeah.
the team was unbalanced.
Yes.
And we ended up converting an inside forward to play centre forward. We did have a centre forward in the team, Cole Kitching, but he wasn't able to make his mark because of this lack of training beforehand.
Okay, wasn't fit.
We were unbalanced.
Yeah.
But we thought we had a reasonable side. And in the meantime, we're playing friendly games against Germany, Yugoslavia, India, Great Britain. So we're getting some match play, but still, they settled on a team which pretty much played most of the time against those.
Yep.
And I mean, so all of this is going along nicely.
Yeah.
And now we're heading to the first match. I'll come back to the Olympic experience in a minute. So we beat Japan comfortably.
2-0 that day, yes?
Sorry?
You won 2-0 that day?
2-0.
2-0, okay.
Yep. And the next game was to be India. And this is the greatest lesson I've ever learned, and still see it today in all forms of team and individual sport.
Okay.
We lost to the Indian team 4-2. Because, in my view, collectively, because we have to take the responsibility collectively, we believed we were into the quarterfinal. It was ours. And I think what that would have done for the game at this time, so it's in the semi-final, because it was a small number of nations that came. Real problems with the Suez Canal, Holland withdrew, and a few others as well. Now, that would have been enormous for our game,
yes,
because we would have been playing Yugoslavia, and we had played against them and weren't frightened of them. They were a good side, I'm not saying that. You also got to remember that Yugoslavia and Russia, etc., amateurs, were all amateurs, but they were all in the army.
yes.
They were conscripted to play football.
Yes, they were paid very, very well, fed very well, and coached very well, right? So they were amateurs, but sort of professional, right? Playing for, yeah.
And so I see, as I say, it's still happening. And I have sympathy for the coaches because the coaches are aware of this. They try to train for it. They try to get in the minds of the players. And yet when it happens, and it happened later in my coaching career, when we have a review of the game and each player says, well, yeah, look, I didn't play my best, but it wasn't too bad, wasn't it? Well, collectively, if 11 of you weren't too bad, how come we had such a bad performance? And it's like a virus.
Yes.
It spreads from 2 or 3 players, casual. They're not really giving their best. And it's the hardest thing to overcome. As I say, you see it now, it's still happening.
Yes.
In relation to the Olympic experience, this is the first major tournament that Australia played in.
Yep.
And getting this telegram, okay, we get to the Olympic Village and you're down there, and we, amongst all the other teams, sports and countries. So we're not these world players, we're not these, we're these bucks down here. We're all together. And one of the things that comes from the Australian Olympic Committee is once an Olympian, always an Olympian. You're not a former Olympian, you're an Olympian.
Okay.
And you are the same as a multiple gold medal winner or someone who plays 10 minutes in a volleyball game or whatever.
Yep.
And it was inclusive, very inclusive. And of course, there were a lot of our athletes were very successful. But before that, it wasn't anticipated. Yes, you knew John Landy and Lucas Cohen. You knew a lot of those, but not all of them. And here you are in this huge dining room with an incredible choice of food. And remember, this is 56 after the trials of the war and all that. It's just as well we're trained twice a day because there was too much food.
You were eating a lot, right?
certainly were. And they had television shows in the hall. And of course, television came to Melbourne.
Yes.
Bob Dyer and his picker box and all this were on there.
Yes.
Anyway, they started to say, well, we're going to have this opening ceremony. We've got to get you people to come in some sort of order. And we had a regimental sergeant major getting us to march. And we were hopeless. Brown Scouts. It's going to be a disaster. Not too much worried about it. We're going to play football. On the day, all these buses arrived to take everybody to the village, down to the Richmond ground, and we got a little box of sandwiches and some fruit and whatever, and we were sitting there, and it was quite a hot day. And we're waiting for our turn in the very thick woolen jackets.
Yeah, but you guys look smart. Everybody looks smart. Maybe bit heavy for the day, but everybody looks smart in the photos.
Well, yes. What happened there was about the third day they said, right, we're taking you into the city and we're going to get your gear. Went to Melbourne Sports Depot, got the tracksuits, shirts, whatever, onto another place to get shoes, Fletcher Jones to get the jacket, whatever. Anyway, we're about to file into the MCG, the cyclone fence there, and here's John Marshall. He was a very renowned swimmer who was in the college in America. He was ahead of the wave that came later, including the 56. And, oh, yeah, and there's John. And who's these kids? There's two kids there. They're about 12 or 13, I look. It's John and Ilse Conrads. But that's that time. So we're still, what's going on? So we hit the MCG. And I know it's a long time ago, and you remember the play tricks with it, but we were the Grenadier Guards. We marched in there, all those countries lining up. There's 110,000 people. I can still feel that.
Yes.
Whenever I go to the MCG, I look at the spot where we came in. It's now been built over.
Yeah.
There's a gap there. And I can still feel it.
Good.
And so, out of all the things that have happened, I've been extremely fortunate in a lot of ways. But to have that memory, I can't take it away from you. There would be plenty of people think I shouldn't have been there. But,
yeah.
I've got it, and it was a fantastic day.
Oh, that's really special. Thank you so much, Ted, for sharing. I mean, and this is the thing. What the kids today have, this. Or everything's become organized play, right? So there's a training session. The kids will play if the coach is there organizing the session. When you guys played, it was all unorganized play, right? So no coach, just the ball and go and play and have a kick and learn and improve yourself. And then, not even to have a coach that would select his 11. You would have half a dozen blokes get together, work out who our best 11 are, right? So just a shift on where it is or what you needed to cope with to work out what it is to go and represent our country. But there's no difference when you got to go wear the jersey, right? That you're going to put your 100% in to go in and try your best on the day to play against the opposition. So I take my hat off to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, one of the things I also was doing when I was 13, 14, 15, 16 was no different to what Craig Johnson, Pele, all the good players did. Not that I knew that at the time, but I kicked the football up against the factory wall.
Wow. Yep.
There's a broom factory around the corner.
Okay.
Now, I wasn't kicking that ball. I am going to score that goal for Australia. I was kicking that ball because I like doing something, and working on some skills.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have put much more time in, but this is where the young players of today, their lifestyle makes it harder for them. It's too easy.
Yeah.
But you've got to get with the ball time and time again.
Ted, how many minutes or hours in a day would you get the ball by yourself, just you and the ball, and kick it up against the wall to practice?
Well, you can say that happened every day, because certainly from when I was 17, I was into the weight training and running with the athletes.
Yes.
I was also fortunate to have a mate who took me to Preston, who was a goalkeeper.
Yep.
So we would have Saturday sessions, banging the ball.
Okay.
Him, I still got a little cyclone wire fence in this little plot of land, and you play the warpass off the cyclone fence and smash it past your mate if you could. But I can't say it was all deliberately formulated for a system. I just like working,
But you would
thinking of that, I think it's because I spent these 2 years in the bush with no school mates.
Okay.
I made my own fun. I never played footy or cricket because I didn't know what to do. But it doesn't matter.
But as a kid, would you say in a week you would spend a couple of hours, a few hours kicking the ball against the fence to
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Not as much as Craig Johnson, but
No. But I mean, but the point is, it goes to show that you need to improve your technique. You need to have repetition to learn the art of the connection of the foot to the ball, the different parts of your foot, to get the balance of both sides of your feet, so you can improve your game. And you did that.
So you don't need a coach to do that.
Yes.
Because what happens when the ball comes back, you've got to control it, otherwise you're going to chase it down the street
Yes.
and you're not going to have much fun against it. It's something that you can do anytime, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever.
Yes.
And sometimes your skill will surprise you.
Yes.
There was a player for Real Madrid when they won 7 European championships in a row, Gento, left winger, and he had this trick where he would step over the ball, flick it with one foot, and backheel it over his head.
Yep.
And in the match, with a fullback coming down at him.
Yes.
Well, I never did that in a match, but I was, after seeing how it's done, able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing of repetition. You can do all these things when you see the Cruyff turn and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
It came from his working with a ball when he was very young, working. All of a sudden, oh, this is not bad.
Yeah. Goes to show if the effort that you put in to the game, then you get the reward out, right? So, but you need to put some effort in, right? And then to get benefit out.
It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
You don't suddenly arrive and the world is just sitting there for you.
Mm.
You only just got your foot on the escalator.
Mm.
It's the hardest part. And that's where we see, unfortunately, Joey's haven't been able to advance enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they're mainly going to come from.
Yeah. So maybe a message to young players out there. Get in love with that ball. You don't need a coach to go and kick the ball against the wall to improve your technique, your balance, to become both footed. I really like that point. Lesson that we can all learn if we're coaching teams. So after you played at the Olympics, many great memories that you had there, in particular walking out on the MCG, you saying that you remembered going there. Thank you for sharing that. You went on to coach some teams after you finished playing. Who did you end up coaching after you finished playing?
Yes. Just a short visit. I played for Melbourne for 8 years, and we were unique in that we had 5 players, 21 or under.
Okay.
And Melbourne didn't have a youth policy; it just happened.
Okay.
The other 4 were all English, and it started to break up. John Hobson, who was a soccer, who went to George Christ, Norm Hobson, who was a great goalkeeper, was selected for Australia, didn't get on the field. They left, so my mates were breaking up, and I was asked to go to South Melbourne. So
yep.
I went to South Melbourne, and again, some luck. They appoint Manny Pouliakakis, an FA coach from Egypt.
Yep.
And he brings the 4-2-4 system into South Melbourne. No one had ever played it and starting out the season. And I was one of the 2 in the middle, which suited me. I'm now where I should have been. I was infinitely better player at South Melbourne.
Okay.
In those years, in midfield. We won their first championship. I was there for 3 years under Manny. Then went to Hercoa, and during that time, for the first time, I'm selected in the reserves. Never played in a reserve game all before.
Wow.
They had an Israeli player that was playing in my spot.
Okay.
So I kept training. Manny Pouliakakis comes there. we revert to 4-2-4. So here I am again doing the work that I could run forever, basically. And win the Doctor Cup. So I was lucky. Doctor Cup at Moreland, Championship at Else, and the Doctor Cup at Hakala. In the meantime, I won the Armstrong Cup in reserves for Hakala. Anyway, Hakala asked me to take on coaching.
Yes.
And I thought I knew it. I thought I knew all that, just coaching data. We had a great team as a co-out, which was starting to break up. And I had some limited success because I wasn't prepared to coach. All the players aren't Ted Smith, aren't like working, aren't like running. You know, they're all different.
Yes.
I had no idea about player management at all, reflecting, and it's really disappointing. So naturally, I'm got the sack. So I go back to my old club, and I played half a season and realised stop playing. I was on the committee for 3 years, coached them there, and was president for 3 years. And the National League starts. So Manny Pulakakis gets me down to South Melbourne as assistant coach.
Yes.
I was there for 3 years, including 2 under Dave McLaren. And one of my proudest moments is that I had to coach the team because McLaren had pneumonia.
Okay.
And my record, 100% win, 4-0.
Oh, there you go. Happy
How can
days.
you beat them?
Happy days. Happy days.
Yeah.
So
my experience as a coach, I did well with a young Moreland team who would do anything. You know, if you told them to jump on that roof, they would do it. It was fantastic. But I never really made my mark as a coach. I would have liked to have. Just went too early.
Yep.
I should have been an assistant somewhere.
Yep.
But anyway, it was still all enjoyable. One thing about a team game, you know, you're running the people. Last year, yes, that's right. I was invited to go to Western United match, and up in the dining room, whatever. At half time, I'm going to the toilet, and here this old chap, I'm saying old chap. Oh, I saw you play when I was 10 South Melbourne Hellas. After all these years, some person recognises you and thinks that it was a good experience for you.
Great.
That's good.
That's great. So it's interesting you say you make the point. I think a lot of first year coaches who have played the game their whole life, and now you've got the job of now being the coach. You think you understand the game, but then when you've got the job of the coach, right, you're now on the other side, right, and there's a completely different dynamic of what happens, because now sometimes you're managing your mates, sometimes you're managing your people that you played with. There's a completely different power shift, right? So you touched on that. I think any early coach recognizes that. So I think that's another learning. So when coaches transition from playing to coaching, they're going to experience the same thing you experienced, right? You think you know the game, and then you become a coach, and then you realize, oh, it's something that you need to relearn, right? Player management, knowing how to behave, dealing with different personality types, all these things to motivate and get the best out of your boys.
Yeah, well, I lost a great player in Dick Van Alphen through trying to be strong. The chairman was trying to influence me. Dick had a leg strain, didn't play for a week or two, and I wanted him to have another week. The president at the time said, "You said he was going to play." I said, "You did not say that."
Mm.
But anyway, Dick retired after that, and I should have managed that better, much better. And the team was breaking up anyway, so it was a catalyst for what was going to be my demise as coach.
Interesting. It's you know the self-reflection piece also. I think it's a very wise thing. You know, coaches who are able to realize when they've made a mistake and being able to admit to it. That's a massive learning that I take out of it being a coach, being able to work out you're going to do some good things, right? And you're going to make some mistakes. And it's what can you learn from those mistakes to not necessarily repeat them again. So thank you very much, sir, for that, for sharing that. I really want to click because you're still working in the game now, right? So at 85 years old, this is, I'll take my hat off to you. So you actually haven't really stopped working, right? You run a bit of a group, and I would like you to tell us about what it is this group is, because you run what I would call a Socceroo alumni, right? You get the boys together. Anyone who's been capped by Australia, you boys get together and you organise that. So tell me, how did this start, and where did it come from, and what is it that you do?
Yeah, first I to say that there again was a lucky break, if you like. I drifted out of the game mainly because of the amount of time I'd spent on it, and now I wanted to play golf and spend more time with family. And I bumped into a fellow from Football Victoria who had been designated in helping set up Football Australia Hall of Fame. And John D. Felicio was the chair, Fred Julius was there, and myself, and of course I was one of the few who had the history back to the 50s and whatever. So I joined in that, and so I was now back in the game, and I was involved with that for about 15 years. And particularly the first one when we inducted an enormous number of people because we had to go back a long way, and we had some help with. There's quite a few historians around that no one knows about.
Yes.
And it's a bit of a loose connection, but that helped that. And in doing that, we organised a couple of functions, pre-game functions, with the help of Football Australia. We had 100 prior to the Iran game.
Yep.
Down in Kilda Road, and we got to sort of see in the bus, and we had a great function and dinner. When we got lost the game, it was terrible. We were all going to have a great celebration, and we were waiting for the bus to take us back to St Kilda Road, where our cars were. And there weren't any buses for him. So we've lost this damn game. We're standing there in the dark. It was shocking.
So let us know some of the names of the people, 100 ex-Socceroos. Tell me some of the boys that are sitting there waiting. Who was amongst you?
Well, Rasic was there, and I played against
Rasic. So he coached
when he was a JOST. I played against him.
Yeah.
He was right back. I was no on the wing in midfield. So I knew Raleigh very well. Ronnie Lord, Billy Henderson from our team were there.
Yeah.
Anyone you name was there.
Yeah.
And then out of that, we in conjunction with the PFA, we ran several other functions.
Yes.
When the game on, and I was then approached by I'm a bit hazy on names now, but I'm thinking a fellow from Football Victoria who was researching a book.
Okay.
And I was able to give him some people to see, because we had these names from the previous functions.
Yep.
And so he went around, and the book came out as Our Socceroos,
Yep.
which I'm in there. I really probably know it, shouldn't I? But it's not meant to be the best Socceroos. It is meant, these are the fellas, mainly, who came here from overseas, then will die for that shirt.
Wow.
That was the theme of the book.
Yes.
And when he interviewed all these people, he said, everywhere I go, they say, we never have a function, we never see it. Oh, I said, well, okay, well, I'm a member of the Olympians Club who have functions, not as regular. They don't play as many games, of course. And so, with the help of some Olympians there that I knew, athletes, we got their constitution and put it to the Football Australia that we should have a club run by Socceroos for Socceroos.
Yes.
The basis is if you played for Australia in the international match, you are entitled to be a member.
Yes.
Don't cost you anything. And out of that, we wanted to retrospectively present numbered caps, starting with Alex Keith at number 1.
Yes.
We had a bit of a debate over that. They wanted to name the first one from the goalkeeper down. I said, you've got to have the captain. The first captain has to be number 1.
Yes.
Alex Keith, and it's another great bit of luck we had about 3 or 4 years ago, where some of his family came and received Alex's cap. Fantastic. From 1932. Anyway, we then started to try and fix up the database, which we still haven't done.
Okay.
Because blokes move, they've changed their emails and whatever. And
Yep.
with the help of a lot of historians around the country, we've managed to dig up, if you like, a lot of people. And there's now an interesting trend happening. In the last year or two, we've been contacted by several families of former sufferers who are no longer with us, and said we saw the presentation on the ground. Initially, we didn't do them on the ground. They were in the room. But we had one in Sydney where Timmy Cale had a cook back and wasn't playing, and they brought him up and he presented the caps to about $6 or $7, which was still. But we believe on the ground and it's now been proved where there's one of the fellows in our 56 team, Jackie Leonard, who was the one that converted to a centre forward. His mother and his grandson are going to get the caps of Jackie and his father, who also played for Australia.
Wow.
So we got 2 of them, and we had another fellow from Newcastle from 1938 played against India. Their family had come forward, and
Yes.
we set up the Leonards were going to fly over to Perth on their own cost when that game was set up for Perth.
Yes.
But we're still waiting to see where we play. So
Yep.
they'll go wherever it's needed.
Yeah, of course.
And they're not, we want someone to pay for it. We want to pay. No, I mean, we don't have money.
Yeah.
But there's also been a slight change in that, because I came from the era of the 50s and 60s when all the migration came.
Yep.
And we were kicked out of FIFA. So we played club teams, Torpedo, Moscow, Chelsea, played a lot of them. Now these blokes played for Australia.
Yep.
Without payments, and kept the game going.
Yes.
But not acknowledged.
Okay.
We're now about to we're working on the database of about 200 of them.
Okay.
We've had 100, we've got their addresses, and depending where we play, they are going to have a different cap.
Okay.
It'll be a yellow cap, but they're going to get one.
Good.
And so we're still working on both of these
Yes.
databases. We're nowhere near where we would like to be. We have had fair support from the FFA.
Yes.
We now have, for the last 2 years, our pre-game function includes Matildas and
Yes.
family. Whether that'll continue, I don't know. I think Evans is going to be quite rightly,
Yep.
because of the World Cup 2023, and that is going to give us an enormous long-term boost.
Yes.
Because look, there have women been involved with working behind the scenes with clubs for years. And I can still recall the two ladies at Moreland in this corner of the shed. But they're now going to be playing this mum's competition, and so will their kids.
Mm.
And there'll be boys and girls whose Matildas will bring into the game.
Mm.
So I think it's more likely to run their own function. We'll go wherever we want. It doesn't matter to us, because it's the game. Now, which brings me to how to develop the game. Because of all that, who knows? But certainly, and it's also because we are still continuing to not be supported by governments, by press, that we should be. And
Yes.
some of the anti-soccer things that happen over the years are disgrace. You know, if you're in sport, you should appreciate all sport. Not want to play. I could never play rugby league, but I would appreciate it. I wouldn't watch it very often. But I watch most sports because we realise what they have to do to get to that level.
Yes.
And they say that you have a pyramid. And the broader the base at the bottom, the more quality is going to come to the top. And that's where we are with our participation.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to make sure we use it. And we've got to show that our game deserves the support, because they're all ratepayers, they're all taxpayers.
Yep.
We're still not there, but there's a little bit of a turn in government.
Yeah.
Because we need grounds.
Yeah.
Can I just enlarge on that? One of the things that I noticed when I was in these trials of the Olympics, that the teams and the crowds were all second, third generation Australians.
Mm.
And particularly Newcastle, these were third generation miners, Welsh miners, as distinct from Melbourne, where it was a British to start off with, but it was now expanding with all the European, which was a great boost to the game. You only got to look at the 74 team there.
Yeah.
And I in the early days, did some coaching for an under-14 state team, and in there was Oddie Bonnie, Michael Mandalis, and Nick Van Egmond.
There you go.
So I was asked to speak at the funeral of Angus Drennan, my mentor from the Labour Cup. And one of the things I said, and I'd like to think it has some relevance in myself, is that Angus threw the pebble in the water, and the spread just spread. And I'm the happiest with that. Somewhere, someone has been influenced by my efforts for our game.
Yes.
That's good enough for me.
Oh, that's brilliant, sir. I mean, so we all should try and throw our own little pebble in the water and see what happens, right?
Exactly.
Yes, so touching, very touching.
Well, there's been a lot of circumstances and luck where it could have gone a different road, could have not stayed with soccer. When I was looking to go to South Melbourne, Moreland wouldn't let me go. And after all, you know, I played for you for nothing. In fact, the only payment we ever got at Moreland was £10, £10 for winning the Doherty Cup.
Yeah.
Only money in 8 years. And you should let the cup. So they didn't. So for 2 weeks, I trained with senior VFA team, and I had a mate I was playing with. And I wondered at one stage, I had no myself, would I have been any good at footy, AFL? Because I'm not very big, as you see. But I think I took the right path. But it could have been a different path, and another path, and another path. Who knows?
Ted, I would say you would have been good, right? So what happens is when you dedicate, you know, that you said that dream as a 13-year-old, you drew that drawing of scoring. If it would have been a different dream, okay, I think you would have been equally good, sir, right? The fact is, I'm proud that you chose our game, okay? And that you went on to support our game, and then also went on to support, to create this database, because I think this is now your legacy as part of supporting our great game. History is important. We need to understand our history in order to understand where we're going. If we understand better our history, we will know better where to go, because there are lessons in our history. And this conversation maybe has formed part of some of the lessons. You've touched on a couple of things that maybe we can take on to the next generation. But I want to slightly shift gears because...
Can I just say one thing?
Yes.
Can I just say one thing? What I've omitted to say, I've been on Football Victoria Historical Committee for the last 8 years.
Yes.
And one of the things is very pleasing to come across these historians all around Australia that are digging into the info.
Yeah.
It's going to be there. We eventually will get a museum. That's just been pushing that for a long time, as is Andre Kruger from Germany.
Yes.
So that the people can see what brought us to this thing. But I without being silly, I'd correct you to say, the game chose me.
Wow.
I think that's how it happened.
Wow. And yeah, so to let the obviously a lot of people who's going to be listening to this know who Rale Rasic is. Obviously one of Australia's greatest coaches, and influenced and really totally influenced the game. I think from the 70s onwards, you know, very a gentleman from by all reports, but obviously very he had his principles and he knew how he wanted to play. But Andre Kruger, it's another great man that I hope to have on a similar show, and he's doing some great work for the Australian footballing community in collecting our history and keeping account of that. So shout out to you, Andre, all the way in Germany. Thank you, sir.
Me too.
So maybe if you can tell me a couple of funny stories, right? We'll end off with funny stories. Think back throughout your journey, right, which has been better part of half a century, really, right? So what springs to mind from, you know, something that's happened memorable, and it can be with as part of the alumni. You touched on about the buses, but or playing. What's a funny story where you can let us know about in your time in the game?
I don't know that I have too many.
Or memorable story. Maybe we'll shift gears.
Yeah.
A memorable story.
In the Colts team, we had a goalkeeper, Johnny Slade, who also played at Preston, I think, in the juniors.
Okay.
And John ended up playing an enormous number of games as a goalkeeper, including at Hakawa and won the Doherty Cup there. We were playing out at Portray against ICI, and
ICI ended up becoming the team in Sunshine that ended up becoming Western Suburbs, which is, just to let you know, Teddy, I'm a Western Suburbs boy, right? So ICI, yes, so ICI became the Sunshine team that ended up becoming Western Suburbs, who's still the Western Suburbs team that my local club. So yes.
Well, you'll know, of course, that Angus Drennan came from there, who was my big mentor.
Yes.
Anyway, both hit this shot and it's flying into the corner. Slady's more to the right than the centre of the goal.
Okay.
The referee whistles it's a goal. Slady saved it. After the referee had blown before it actually crossed the line.
Okay. So what happened? Was it a goal or no goal? What did it?
No goal.
No goal.
Because he saved the thing.
Okay.
It was impossible to save.
Okay.
And I can still see it. I can still see it. So it's funny to me. It may not be funny to anyone else, but I don't have a lot of funny examples.
The impossible save. What did the referee say straight after the save? Did he go play on, or what did he say after he's blown the whistle?
Save.
Save. All right, play on. Good.
The linesman confirmed it. You know.
Yes.
Impossible. And yeah, as I say, I don't have any jokes. Jimmy Armstrong's a joker.
Yes.
We go to the one of the things that also has happened from the club is pretty much all we have now arranged that they get free memberships, and the Melbourne Victory was the first.
Okay.
And Melbourne City, Perth, Sydney FC, all do it. And we go to Victory, and because there's 3 or 4 mates who play, they go as well. So their investment, if you like, to memberships is good. Well, and the grandson goes as well.
Oh, great.
So we still go to the football, but I also tried to record a lot of these things, but in the early days, still didn't have this great urge to keep playing soccer. But the one who really I caught up with in later years, his example was Joe Marsden. And just like to acknowledge him as the inspiration.
Yes.
Because what Joe did coming from Australia and playing in an FA 11, which has got all English, Scots, everybody involved, it is a fantastic feat at that time, and it shows that Australians can play football. And I thought years ago that we would have a distinctive style. The Australian hard running, still ball control and skill, hard running, never beaten. We flirted with that. I don't think we've still got an identifiable Australian game.
Okay.
We still get the effort. I'm not saying that.
Yeah. So that's a great inspiration. So you talk about Joe Marsden, who played at a similar time to you, obviously inspirational player, leader on the park. Who could forget how good he was at the back? Just solid as a rock. So these are, in the time that we've been speaking, some of the names that you've just mentioned, right? So from Lev Yashin to Rale Rasic, right? So this is, it spans the generations. You are, in my mind, a living legend, Teddy, and the work that you're putting in to capture our history will go on to be, I think, your legacy. What message do you have to the young lads out there, right? So, and girls, lads and lasses who are out there, falling in love with our game? What message do you have for them?
There is no substitute for hard work on your skills and having a target to aim for. Could be Matilda's World Cup win, Olympic gold medal. Wouldn't that be great? Particularly the girls. And you can see them, and they are putting in the work. We have to do it on the men's side now.
Yes.
And look, there's some young blokes overseas that we've never heard of that are going to bother. Australian kids, We've got to make sure that we harness them. We're always at a disadvantage, and the managers don't like them flying all the way over here and losing them for a week or two. But that's how it is.
Yes.
But it'd be great to win the Olympic medal.
Yes, it would. And it'd also be great. Hopefully the girls can to get close to win a World Cup. I think they're a lot closer than the boys, but maybe we'll get, maybe the girls will hold up a Women's World Cup, right? Hopefully in a couple of years here in Australia. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Home soil.
I'd be one of the first to applaud them. Okay.
Yes. Yes. I'd be second in line. So, Ted Smith, it's been an absolute pleasure, sir, speaking with you today. You're a treasure to this game. Thank you very much for your continued support and what you're doing to our game by keeping the boys together, the Socceroo alumni, working hard with obviously the work now that you're doing with Andre and Raleigh to try and get a museum up. Just going through and ensuring that we acknowledge all past Socceroos, whether they played a full cap international, and it's a lot easier to work now, but really going back and working out some of these boys who played when we weren't recognised as part of FIFA, but they still wore this shirt, and I think they should be recognised. So thank you very much, sir. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. So have a great rest of your day, sir.
That's right.